What's up guys, Tommy Bowyer here from Move Rewind, and today I'll be reviewing Holby City Series 18. There will be spoilers in this review, so without further ado, let's get into it. The 18th series of Holby City began airing on the 13th of October 2015 and concluded after 52 episodes on the 4th of October 2016. If you're wondering where I was able to watch Holby City Series 18, well, I actually downloaded UK TV Play. It's a mobile app, and on that app you can watch loads of different classic shows. I think at the moment they have series 18 to 21 of classic Holby City and series 26 to 32 of classic Casualty. So I would say go and check them out and download that app. It's a fantastic app and you can watch all of the Holby City and Casualty series which you would want. So one of the most common themes of series 18 is relationships, especially on and off relationships. And this was a clever concept by the writers and producers of Holby City, because you are intrigued to see how all of these different relationships between the characters will work out. I mean, just to name a few, you've got Oliver Valentine and Zosha Mark. Their relationship throughout Series 18 is on and off all the time. You've got Sasha Levy and Essie Harrison, who actually get engaged, but obviously because Essie longs to have a child and Sasha he's had children, he doesn't want any more children, their relationship ends, which is truly disappointing because those two have great chemistry together. So you've got plenty of relationships in Series 18. You've even got more smaller ones, such as the flirtation between Raf DeLuca and nurse Cara Martinez. So there is all of these interesting relationships going on in Series 18. If I had to pick a favourite relationship though, it would have to be the beautiful relationship between Arthur Digby and Morvin Sharif, which actually results in marriage. Now, I really do enjoy that relationship because Arthur and Morvin are very geeky type characters and they seem a natural fit for one another, and their wedding episode is a really beautiful episode as well because you know that they love one another. So one of the most common themes in Series 18 is on and off relationships. Oh, and of course, I nearly forgot, Moa Effanga ends up pregnant with Mr. T's baby, but she won't tell him because Mr. T's now engaged. So you've got all of these fantastic relationships going on which really help you stay invested, and you want to see the next episode straight away because you want to know what's coming next. Series 18 is a very structured series, and what I mean by that is the hospital really does feel like a thriving workplace. Every character in this series is assigned to a specific ward, which really makes these wards feel like actual teams and families. You've got Darwin under Jack Naylor, you've got Keller under Rick Griffin, and you've got AAU under Serena Campbell. Three very strong authority figures in the hospital. And I have to admit, the teams that are created in these wards, I would say, are pretty iconic. I love Darwin with Zosha Marsh. You've got Oliver Valentine, Moa Effanga. They're a really solid team. You've then got Keller with Sasha Levy, Dom Copeland and Essie Harrison, which is once again a very strong team. And then you've got AAU. Now, I've heard people say in Series 18 that AAU really should be described as the AAU family because you've got Raf DeLuca, you've got Cara Martinez, you've got Arthur Digby, you've got Fletch, and then you have new recruit Bernie Wolfe as well, who really integrates herself well within that department. Now, I really enjoy these wards because it does feel like they're actual families who get on together really well. I think they picked the appropriate characters to appear on these wards because they interact well together. Plus, it also adds a lot of structure to the episodes. I'd say every episode has at least 3 plot threads which follow the specific wards, which I think is a really great idea. Now, Series 18 also does do a lot of office politics stuff, which, personally speaking, I love it when Holby City does office politics. You've got Henrik Hansen as CEO, the best CEO that Holby City has ever seen, and he's constantly under threat from rivals, especially neurosurgeon Guy Self, who is determined to get funding for his neurosurgical unit. And it just adds to a lot of political stuff involving the hospital, which does keep you invested in the programme. So I like how structured this series of Holby City is. Now, the main focus of Series 18 is a character-driven storyline, and that is Junior Doctor Arthur Digby's melanoma diagnosis. Now, I have seen plenty of continuing dramas who have dealt with cancer. You know, in Casualty and Holby City, cancer has been dealt with before. But for me personally, Arthur Digby's storyline is the best representation of cancer on TV. It's such a fantastic storyline from beginning to end. Firstly, it says a lot. It sends out a good warning about getting regular checks if you have spots or lumps on your skin. Arthur, of course, just ignored it for a couple of weeks, which was enough for the cancer to spread throughout his body. Plus, I love how this storyline isn't just a terminal diagnosis from the off. At first, it seems that everything's okay. He goes in for treatment, he has surgery, and it appears that it hasn't spread. But then we learn that he has secondaries, and then eventually the realisation is that Arthur doesn't have long to live. The acting in this storyline is brilliant. Rob Ostello, who portrays Arthur, gives some of the strongest performances in this series. Plus, I love that it's not just Arthur who they focus on. They focus on how it affects his girlfriend and later wife, Morvin, as well as his friends like Dom and Zosha, and his bosses like Rick and Sasha. How everyone in the hospital is struggling to cope with Arthur's diagnosis. Because I think that's a really interesting idea which Holby City went with. Because cancer storylines usually just focus on the individual who has cancer. But obviously, it's not simply about the individual. Cancer affects everyone around them, and I think Holby City with Arthur's cancer storyline do a brilliant job with this. And obviously we've got to talk about Arthur's final episode, I'll Walk You Home. For me, it's the best episode Holby City has ever done. I've seen it several times now and I tear up every single time. I love his final scene when all the staff come in and watch him slowly drift away. And it was a beautiful exit. And it's one of those storylines which, not only was it emotional, but it also raised a lot of awareness for making sure that you got regular checks for skin cancer. Which I think, if anything, is the legacy that this storyline was hoping to get. So they definitely pulled that off. Series 18 has its fair share of dramatic storylines. You have the rivalry between Jack Naylor and Guy Self, which, it was such a great idea to have Guy positioned on Darwin, because he is now a credible threat for Jack's authority because he wants to expand his neurocentre. So I love the scenes between them, especially it comes later in the series when Guy's walking away and Jack literally says, I will find a way to get rid of you and it will be painful. There's just so much tension between these two characters, which works really well. You have plenty of action scenes as well. You have Dom being swindled by a patient who he falls in love with, which then results in a physical altercation between himself, the patient, and Rick, which has you on the edge of your seat throughout, to be honest. Plus, I like how it shows that be careful who you fall in love with, because then they're not always gonna be nice people. So I think that was a good message that Holby City sent out. And obviously you have Fletcher's stabbing, which comes later in the series, which once again is handled very well. And that storyline, if anyone doesn't know, coincided with Casualty celebrating its 30th anniversary, and I think it was a nice touch, considering Fletch was originally a Casualty character, for those episodes to focus on Fletch, because I think it just made sense. It was nice that Holby City gave that little nod to Casualty, which is always a good thing to see, especially as, without Casualty, Holby City, of course, wouldn't exist. Now, I've said a lot about the relationships in Series 18, and some of you may have noticed that I missed out one. And that was the blossoming relationship between Serena Campbell and Bernie Wolfe. Now, the reason I left that out in the beginning is because I wanted to focus on it in depth, because I think it's a really good storyline. Obviously, now it's referred to as Barina, which, of course, fans come up with names for practically every single relationship under the sun. I think the reason this one got so much attention is because it shows that even near middle age, someone can still question their sexuality, which I think they handled with very well. It kind of shows Serena's doubts over the fact that she's fallen in love with this fantastic surgeon, and at first she doesn't really know how to approach it. She's a little concerned about going public because she thinks people may look down on her or may start talking about her behind her back, which is obviously stuff which people who've been in this situation have gone through. So I think they handled it really well. Plus, I would say that Serena and Bernie do have good chemistry. Whenever you see them on screen, even from their first interaction, when, you know, no one knew what was coming, but even from their first interaction, you can tell that there is a spark there. So I think the one thing I can say about Holby City, especially because it's a continuing drama, is they do lay the seeds for certain storylines months before they become a primary focus. And I think that's a really good thing which Holby City don't get enough credit for. They do foreshadow storylines a lot of the time, and Serena and Bernie's romance, that was definitely one of them. Speaking of new characters, as I just mentioned, Bernie Wolfe, they're all good characters. I love Bernie. You know, this woman who has basically always been in the military, and now she's grounded in a hospital and she has to follow rules. She can't be as much of a maverick as she used to be. So I think it's great, especially Bernie's early storylines, having her have to kind of conform to just working in a normal hospital. Obviously, she eventually gets permission to start up a trauma unit on AAU, which, to be honest, that makes so much sense, because AAU is kind of like to do with emergencies anyway, so it makes sense that they have a trauma unit as well. So I think that was a good use of Bernie's character opening a trauma unit. You then have Jasmine Burrows, a new F1, who coincidentally is Jack Naylor's half-sister. I love Jasmine Burrows. She was a breath of fresh air when she arrived in Series 18. I like how Jack is so frosty with her at first, and while Jasmine at first does appear to not have much in common with Jack because she's more carefree and trying to be friends with everyone, you can tell that there is certain similarities between them which make it clear that they're related in some way. So yeah, I really enjoy Jasmine as a character, and plus I like the scenes she shares with Jack, especially the fact that Jack is just not interested in Jasmine whatsoever. Now, and the last character that I want to mention, a new character who was introduced, is Jason Haynes, who is the nephew of Serena Campbell. Now, I know that Jason is a part of the recurring cast, but obviously Jason suffers with Asperger's syndrome, who the actor actually does suffer with in real life. And I just think that they included Jason in this series quite well. They clearly put a lot of time and effort into accurately portraying Asperger's syndrome on TV and showing how someone with that condition can perfectly function in society as long as people understand their condition. And I think Holby City did a decent job with that. And Jason eventually becomes quite an integral part of Holby City, which I think is great. And especially like his scenes with his auntie Serena. Those two do have a good chemistry together. We also see a couple of departures in Series 18, but apart from Arthur's emotional exit, they're all okay. Like, they're decent exits, but I wouldn't say they're anything standout. Adele Effanga, she decides to go back to nursing college and train, and she gets an alright departure, you know, she gets one of those classics, she gets into a taxi and leaves while looking back at the hospital. Jesse Law, he decides to leave to look after his father after their mother passes away, and once again, he just gets in his car and leaves, although he does have a touching final moment with Mo. And then Cara Martinez, she gets a new job and just leaves. And Cara's probably the biggest disappointment, because I feel like they could have done a lot more with Cara's character. Obviously, the storyline involving her husband being an undercover copper and then him cheating on her while he was in that role. It's quite an interesting storyline, and the actress is good, so I think they could have done more with Cara's character. So I think she exited too early to leave a massive impact on the show. But apart from that, there's nothing necessarily wrong with these exits. Like, I don't think they're done poorly in any way, but they're just not standouts for me. So in conclusion, Holby City Series 18 has a very positive reception amongst fans and critics, and it's easy to see why. I really enjoy Series 18, and rewatching it, I enjoyed it even more than I did the first time I saw it. What you get with Series 18 is the perfect combination of emotional, creative and fun storylines, all upheld by an excellent cast. For me, the dominant storyline of Series 18 is Arthur Digby's cancer. That is a storyline which is a very emotional watch, and it also brings all of the characters together, which I think works very, very well. Now, Series 18 was a very strong series of Holby City. Some refer to it as the best ever. I don't know if I'd say it was the best series ever made, but it's definitely up there in the top tier of Holby City series. So yeah, it was a fantastic series and it was great to rewatch. So thanks for watching, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe in order to receive great and maybe even improved quality content in the future. Now, that was my first Holby City series review. Actually, Holby City is more difficult to review than Casualty. I don't know why that is, but it was just very difficult to review this series. So if you do have any tips on how I could improve reviewing Holby City, then please feel free to mention them in the comments down below. I hope you have a good day. I'm gonna watch series 19 of Holby City now. I'm currently on episode 4 and there's 64 episodes in series 19, so it might take me a little longer than usual to watch all of them, but when I have, I will do the review as soon as I possibly can. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in another one. See ya!